was about to marry my fiance of 2 years until I discovered a video from his bachelor's party telling everyone the real reason why he wanted to marry me, so I decided to walk down the aisle in casual clothes and told everyone his secret. My partner George and I have enjoyed a wonderful 6 years together. We got engaged 2 years ago and have been planning to get married this year. He and I met when I was on a work trip to another country. Incidentally, it happened to be the first visit for both of us to that particular place. While exploring the place, it started to rain unexpectedly one afternoon. I rushed to take cover in a cozy little coffee shop nearby. As I walked in, feeling a bit disheartened by the weather, my eyes were immediately drawn to a tall, attractive man sitting in a corner, completely engrossed in a book. Now, I'm not the sort of person who can just walk up to a guy and ask him out, so I just ordered hot chocolate for myself and settled at a nearby table, stealing glances in his direction. I guess he must have noticed me staring at him because he responded with a warm smile that instantly put me at ease. We struck up a conversation about our favorite authors, and from there it was like we couldn't stop talking. His enthusiasm for life was infectious, and I found myself drawn to his kindness and genuine nature. Over the rest of our vacation, we started spending more and more time together, exploring new places, trying new cuisines, and discovering shared interests. What really amazed me about George was his ability to always see the bright side of things, even when things didn't go to plan. Being the oldest child in my family, I was very rigid when it came to planning out every single detail of my life, while George just went with the flow. It was liberating to be around him, and I think that is why I quickly fell in love with him. When we returned home, we continued to stay in touch. He asked me out on an official date, and the rest is history. He had this incredible sense of humor that never fails to make me laugh, even on the toughest days, and his support for my dreams and aspirations has always been unwavering. George has been very open with me about his family's challenging history. He shared very early on that his father was abusive and left him and his mother with very little money when he was just a baby. His mother, Caroline, had to take on various odd jobs to make ends meet. She single-handedly had to cover rent and George's education and put food on the table, which must have been horrible for her to handle alone. George even recounted once a particularly distressing memory where his mother had resorted to desperate measures for money, starting to have intimacy with men in their neighborhood to earn some extra cash. Unfortunately, this led to a dangerous situation when she was caught by some of these men's wives. They knocked sense into her in front of George and threatened her with even worse consequences if she ever repeated her actions and slept with their husbands. George vividly remembers the humiliation from that incident, and it's something that has deeply affected him. This is why he has worked so hard all his life to provide for his mother. Although I don't blame his mother, I have always felt bad for my fiancé. He had to grow up too soon and did not even get to enjoy his childhood properly. Hence, I've always made it a priority to give George experiences and gifts that he missed out on before. Whether it's asking him to the opera or Disneyland or surprising him with expensive Star Wars collectibles and an Xbox, things he's always wanted, I've spared no expense to fulfill his dreams. I'm fortunate to afford these luxuries, not only because of my well-paid job but also because I come from a comfortable background with a home in my name and no rent to worry about. My parents are wealthy and have given me and my younger brother everything that we have ever wanted. George is such a wonderful man, so I've never hesitated to spend my money on him. Seeing him happy and experiencing things he never had the chance to do before is incredibly rewarding. When we go on vacations, I cover all the expenses because I know he wouldn't be able to afford the luxurious 5-star resorts that I prefer. On our birthdays, I've never pressured him to buy me expensive gifts. I cherish meaningful gestures like hand-drawn cards or heartfelt letters. I've always had open conversations with George about my spending on him, making sure he's comfortable with it. Thankfully, he has never raised any concerns and understands where I'm coming from. Our relationship is built on mutual respect and understanding, and it brings me joy to see him happy and content with me. One of my fondest memories with him was our trip to the mountains 2 years ago. We hiked to the top of a peak and watched the sunset together, feeling like we were on top of the world. In those quiet moments, surrounded by nature and his comforting presence, I knew I had found someone truly special. Just as I was lost in the tranquility of the moment, George surprised me in the most heartwarming way possible. He knelt down before me and pulled out a small velvet box. My heart skipped a beat as I realized what was happening. I hadn't expected a proposal then and there, but the love and sincerity in his eyes were unmistakable. Inside the box was a ring that sparkled in the fading light, a ring he had been quietly saving up for to mark this very moment. Tears of joy welled up in my eyes as I said yes without hesitation, feeling an overwhelming sense of gratitude and love. In that breathtaking setting under the canopy of the evening sky, I knew in my heart that I had found not just a partner but my soulmate. That evening, as we descended the mountain together hand in hand, I couldn't stop smiling. It is a memory etched into my heart forever. When we started planning our future together, I felt incredibly lucky to have George by my side. He wasn't just my fiancé, he was my best friend and my confidant. My parents love him as much as I do. However, the only person who seems to have a problem with us is his mother. Dealing with George's mother has been a challenge for me. Despite meeting her several times, she has never really warmed up to me. It's not that I sense jealousy or resentment, which might be more typical in future mothers-in-law. Instead, she seems to regard me with pity, almost as if she finds me distasteful. I tried to initiate conversations with her about this, hoping to understand her perspective or address any concerns she might have, but she remains silent and ignores me until I eventually walk away. It's perplexing and hurtful because I genuinely want to build a positive relationship with her for George's sake. Navigating this dynamic has been tough, especially when I see how much George values family. I've learned to approach interactions with her cautiously, hoping that with time and effort we can bridge whatever divide seems to exist between us. George's mother has a peculiar reaction whenever he shows affection towards me in her presence. She visibly recoils in disgust. It's an uncomfortable situation for both of us, so we've learned not to display any sign of affection when she's around. It's a bit odd, but we respect her boundaries nonetheless. I remember the first time George dragged me to have Christmas dinner with his mother. It was just the three of us, and she hardly spoke to me throughout the evening, which made for a rather awkward experience. As we sat at the table, she and George chewed their food loudly while I found myself trying to make small talk to fill the silence. Despite my efforts, the atmosphere remained tense and awkward. I did not enjoy the evening at all. Since my family went all out to celebrate the holidays, we gathered with extended family, exchanged gifts, and enjoyed festive meals together, a tradition I've always cherished from my childhood. The next year, I remember discussing with George the idea of him joining me for our Christmas celebration with my family instead of going to his mother's, but he firmly told me that he was not going to ditch his mother. I respected his decision and didn't push the matter further. It was important to him, and I understood his desire to be with his mother during the holidays. To find a balance that worked for both of us, we agreed on a compromise. We would spend the Christmas holidays separately with our respective families. This way, George could enjoy the day with his mother, and I could celebrate it with my family. This solution has worked out and made both of us happy over the years. However, last year, my grandparents passed away, and out of respect, my family decided not to hold our usual Christmas celebration that year. This is why I suggested to George that he and I spend Christmas evening with his mother. When I mentioned this to him, instead of understanding, he suddenly became defensive.